Hello, everybody. How's it going? This is a crazy day. I don't even know exactly where to start. First, I guess I'll start with the usual disclaimer. The last time I spoke to you guys, I told you I sold like about a third of my position and that I would not update YouTube if I bought or sold anything in the interim, but that you should assume I wasn't going to sell anymore, but I definitely could buy more. And I did buy more, which I tweeted a few weeks ago. Anyone that follows me saw me tweet. I bought back most of the position that I sold at like 85 cents. I paid like an extra dime, a dime more than what I sold it for. So that was up until this week. So that's my disclaimer there. The other disclaimer I want to give you is that I have no intention whatsoever of trading this CVR today after this video. So there'll be no CVR trades today. There'll probably be no CVR trades tomorrow, but I have the right to buy or sell this CVR whenever I want to. And you should invest at your own risk. And you should realize this CVR is extraordinarily risky, as you all know at this point, and anything could happen here. In fact, I forgot to put my disclaimer in the video, and I'll do that after I am done. My current position size is I'm about 30% position in it. And I own a similar number of shares that I did before the Lysocell PDUFA date. So when the stock was what, $1.20, $1.30, and then it went to 65 cents. I'm currently right at about the same number of shares. I did buy more stock in the last week, and I did sell some stock today, obviously before this YouTube video, but I have more shares today than I did last week. So anyway, I feel very good about the CVR. I don't really owe you all those disclosures, but I just want to be very clear that this isn't a video for any other purpose but to inform and report and have the same kind of dialogue that I've been having on here. I felt bad not doing the videos last week or the week before on other news and other thoughts I had, but I honestly just got burnt out by it. And it just seemed odd coming on here every other day when there was something to talk about. So before I get to today, I do want to say something that I wanted to say from 2 weeks ago. I'll make it pretty brief since it's obviously not as relevant now. But when I did the last time I did this was, I think, a week ago Friday. So maybe 10 days ago or 13 days ago. The next day, the Bristol Myers CEO was on Bloomberg TV. It was that night. And sorry. And Maisie, no. And he said two things on that interview that I thought were very interesting and is the reason why I bought back my position. So the two quotes he said were, one, they're working actively with the FDA and exploring really the potential for the inspection. And two, they're really confident that we have an opportunity to advance our dialogue. Now, look, was it just language that didn't mean anything? Maybe, but I don't know how you could be actively working with the FDA and be really confident in advancing a dialogue if the FDA told you we need to inspect physically, we can't inspect physically until COVID's over. So that, I read the tea leaves on that and I thought it was very bullish. I've always said that the reason why there was an opportunity here and the chance for this still to be approved this year was because of the things Bristol Myers wasn't telling us. They weren't saying an inspection wasn't scheduled. They were going out of their way before to tell us that all the time. Samet was saying that on some of the calls in September and October. This time, that was never spoken. So, look, I thought there was a window. I thought the window was slim, and I thought the window would have been a virtual inspection. Stock was 70, 80, 90 cents, whatever. Last week, so everything I'm telling you now going forward is not from me. This is from Dan, Sheep of Wall Street, and he gets all the credit, just like he did with Bothell. You should just kind of consider me a reporter. I mean, I didn't have anything to do with any of this, and you should expect that the confidence of what I'm telling you is based on my confidence in Dan. But it's Dan ultimately that you need to be confident in, and he proved to be completely correct with the Bothell situation, and I trust him 100% here. So with that said, last week, it came to Dan's attention that there were some cones in the Houston parking lot where the Lonza facility is. And that was odd because that's similar to what happened at Bothell. I'll remind you, at Bothell, the week before the FDA came, they put a sign over the guest parking spot where they put a bag over it so that people couldn't park in those spots. So Dan got somebody to physically monitor the Houston facility starting yesterday or starting Monday. Now, I'll also tell you that there are multiple people there monitoring this facility. He thinks like 3-4 other people. So many hedge funds are doing this, just like they did with Bothell. On Monday, they witnessed a rental car come into the facility, and the person was wearing business casual clothing and had a backpack. Okay, well, I'd like to remind you also that Lonza is a third-party facility, and there's many other drugs that are manufactured there. There's nothing manufactured there commercially, but there are other drugs that are being made there. And this person could have been there for any number of reasons. I mean, you could run the gamut about why someone would have a rental car and have a backpack and go into the Lonza facility. It really didn't mean much. The next day, they witnessed 2 people coming into the facility in 2 rental cars. One of them was the same person. The other person was obviously a new person. Again, hard to read into this too much, but obviously we were pretty interested in this. And it definitely seemed like it was, there had to be some reason why someone in the middle of COVID would be renting a car and spending all day in this facility 2 days in a row. You know, I doubt it was going to be a mock inspection, because if you do a mock inspection, you would have done that months before the PDUFA, right? I doubt it was a client, you know, just visiting, checking to see whether they wanted to use Lonza's facility in the middle of COVID. I would think that kind of thing could have waited until COVID calmed down. But again, it could have been any number of things. In fact, I was talking to someone today about it. I would have probably put at least a 50% chance it had nothing to do with lysocell, maybe even a 75% chance. Okay, so you fast forward to this morning, and well, I guess you could fast forward to last night. I'm not going to give you every single detail. That's up to, you know, Dan and whatever. I mean, he gave me permission to talk about this, but I'm just going to give you some broader strokes. It came to the investigators' conclusion yesterday night that they did not work for the FDA. Okay. So, you know, kind of bummed out. They weren't FDA, and that's that. However, the investigator was able to figure out that they are Bristol Myers employees. They work for Juno, or one of them works for Juno out of the Seattle office. How we figured that out, again, I have no idea. You have to ask Dan, but that's what he figured out. I believe him that he figured it out, but even if that's the case, right, we don't know why they're there. They could have been there just for an annual, you know, visit to make sure that the vector is being manufactured appropriately. You know, they could have been there because the FDA is planning on coming in a month or two, and they need to get the facility in order for that inspection. Again, but there's definitely now a lot more smoke, and you know, we know now that those people are there for lysocell, not there just because the Lonza facility has other products. Okay, so fast forward a few hours from there. This was this morning, and a car pulls up, and out of the car comes a few people. I think it was 3, but I don't remember the number who Dan told me. And they ran the plate on the car, and the car belongs to a Dallas FDA employee. Can't make this shit up. I don't know how he did this 2 times in a row with the exact same security, but that is what I'm told. So, assuming all that's true, which again, I believe 100% it is true, let's talk about the risks, and let's talk about the situation right now. This does not mean lysocell is getting approved. It does not mean lysocell is getting approved by December 31st. Okay. Period. It also doesn't mean that the FDA guy is there for lysocell. Now, of course, it's extraordinarily likely he is if the Bristol Myers employees are there in a suit. Oh, I left out the best part of the story. I can't believe that's part of the story. The Bristol Myers employees this morning were wearing suits versus the other 2 days they were wearing business casual. So again, why would they be wearing suits unless they were meeting with like the Lonza CEO? And even then, they're the client. It didn't make a lot of sense why they'd be wearing suits. So yes, there's a chance the FDA is not there for lysocell. I think that's unlikely. I would have thought that was definitely a possibility if the Bristol Myers employers weren't there, because maybe there's a chance that the vaccine or some vaccine vector is being manufactured there. I don't think it is. I think it's being manufactured in New Jersey, but that definitely could have been the case. So assuming that's not a risk, what are the other risks? Well, they could get a Form 483 that they can't rectify, or it takes a very long time to rectify, and it doesn't get approved by December 31st. Major risk. I would say it's a minor risk. I would think the odds that a 483 is not rectifiable is under 10%. The odds that's not rectifiable by December 31st might be 25%, right? Lonza has to turn this around, okay? And they have 15 business days to answer a Form 483. Now, they don't usually take the full 15 business days. And I can assure you, if Bristol Myers drags this out to where this gets approved on January 5th or January 10th, the lawsuit's very real, because you can argue that they did not act in due course to try to get this approved as fast as they possibly could, knowing that they would save the money if they waited to December 31st. So I'm not as worried about that, but I'm definitely not at 100% that life still gets approved now or gets approved by the end of the year. Okay. I'm obviously pretty confident that will happen based on the fact that they're inspecting now. And I don't think the biggest bear case in this security in the last 3 weeks is that vaccines are here, right? And it's the bear case isn't what you think. It's not that the FDA is going to be too swamped with inspecting vaccine plants. It's that they know they're going to be able to vaccinate their inspectors sometime in the month of December. And if it takes 2 vaccinations 3 to 4 weeks apart, the FDA inspectors should be fully vaccinated by the middle to the end of January. So if the FDA knows that there's light at the end of the tunnel where they're going to be vaccinated, why would they send inspectors into COVID hot zones after they've already missed the PDUFA date? And that to me was a real legitimate bear case. So I would not have put any real chance at physically inspecting this facility this month. So I'm kind of in shock that they're there. I thought they would do a virtual inspection and they would do it this week or next week. That would be my hope. That was my hope. Assuming this gets approved, I am extraordinarily constructive on ide-cel being approved by March 29th for 2 reasons. One, like I said, the FDA inspectors will be vaccinated by the middle or end of January. And that drug should be as high of priority of any drug that CBER has to review, because there's no other drug on the market and it's for a very high unmet need. 2, if the FDA has now shown us that they're willing to inspect liso-cel in the middle of a pandemic, they're clearly going to figure out a way to drive to New Jersey or drive. We believe the vector is being manufactured in, actually, I was told it's in Massachusetts, but then Bluebird said they manufacture the vector, so it might be in North Carolina. But regardless, that drug should make its PDUFA date. And the odds of a major amendment there are rather low, okay? If you have a conspiracy theory that the major amendment of liso-cel happened because the FDA had time to inspect, how do you rectify that conspiracy theory? ide-cel getting an RTF a few weeks later. They definitely did RTF ide-cel because they were worried about not being able to inspect a New Jersey facility, in December, back in April or May. So I believe that those 2 issues, the major amendment and the RTF, were similar in nature. And that's why they got both of them. And if you look historically at companies that have gotten RTFs, I believe only one of them, at least from a breakthrough designation perspective, I can't remember how we data mine this, but only one of them had a major amendment after an RTF. Because again, to remind you, the whole idea of an RTF is you're given kind of a cheat sheet that says, okay, this is where you messed up. This is all the things that need to be completed going forward. Usually when a company submits an NDA, they do have things missing, but they submit those issues as the weeks or months go on with the review. In this case, they're doing that as well, of course, but they were given the cheat sheet And then they hopefully gave them most of the information so they didn't get another RTF, right? Anyway, so what do I think? What am I doing? I told you I have a similar position size that I did, number of shares that I did back when it was $1.20. I have a similar I have more shares than I did when it was 330, 340 before the Bristol Myers CEO conference call. The position's smaller. My portfolio has luckily gone up a lot. So the position's smaller. It's a 30% position when it was once a 50% position. And my portfolio is now much higher than it was at the peak of when when the BMYRT was 350 or 375 or $4. So look, things are good from my perspective. My personal portfolio is being managed this way because those are the risks I can take. Okay. As I said, even last time I did this, when I had whatever it was, an 8% position, the last time we spoke, that position size is way too big for most people in this security, right? I mean, this is a binary security that can go to zero, and you have to know what your own risk tolerance is and what your own financial situation is. For me, my other big positions have done really well. I did a previous two YouTubes on Groupon. As you've seen, it's gone to 32. I really like Groupon, by the way. I haven't sold any Groupon. And they're presenting next week on Monday and on Thursday, I think. And I highly suggest you watch those, though you can watch, the interim CEO did a presentation this week that you can get on their website. And he goes through the entire turnaround story. And the short, while I have you all here captured, the short version on the long story on Groupon is that it's a COVID recovery play that they only have to get to 80 or 90% of their previous billings to get to 200 to 300 million of EBITDA because they cut so many costs out of the business. But it's not just a COVID recovery play. They actually have a new going forward business model that finally makes sense when the old one never made sense. In the old Groupon, you associated Groupon with a place to go for deep discounts and kind of shit deals. And you go there once and you would get a deep discount on something, and then you could never go back there again to go buy that discount again. I mean, I used an example in the last video that I got a dentist once from Groupon. I mean, why would anybody trust a dentist at 80% off? I did, and that was a huge mistake. The guy told me I had 20 cavities, and I had no cavities. So the new Groupon is going to be a marketplace you can go to, a locals marketplace, where you could hopefully buy everything you want to buy from that specific vendor. Some will be discounted, some won't be discounted, but it'll be your place to go to shop locally. So for instance, let's say I find a new barber and I get a 50% off the first time I get a haircut. I can go back there and I can get 10% off, subsequent haircuts. Or I can get, shampoo from the barber at a discount or whatever, And the whole idea is it's not just a deep discount kind of junk website where you go to the dollar store and you buy junk crap. It's more that this is the place I want to go. Hey, I want to go to the amusement park, down the street. Let's go to Groupon and I'll buy the tickets for 10% off versus having to go there and having to be 30 or 40% off. So anyway, that's my cheap Groupon pitch. If it works, they don't even have to have a turnaround work. If it's just a COVID recovery play and you get to 200 to 300 million of EBITDA, it goes up multiples from here. I mean, it's trading at $1.50 pre-split when it was a $2.50 to $3 stock before COVID happened. So it's still down nearly 30 to 40% on COVID when Yelp is already above its pre-COVID levels. Oh, that's the final kicker on Groupon. I don't think they're going to be here in a year. I think they're going to be sold or merge with either a Yelp or potentially an IAC. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for you to take this business and put it with another business and create a lot of synergies and a lot of cost savings. So you have another way out of this that I'm not banking on, but I'd be surprised if Groupon is a standalone company in a year. Now, there's so much fatigue with Groupon. I mean, it's been talked about for being for sale for years and years, and nothing's ever happened. And you have no ownership, no fundamental shareholder ownership. In fact, it's kind of funny. The last quarter, the two biggest purchases were from Renaissance and D.E. Shaw. They're the only ones that bought more than a few 100,000 shares that had to file. And of course, those are quant funds. So there's nobody in this stock. It's left for dead. And if the story gets out and they actually really can show this turnaround with the tailwind of COVID, I'm very bullish on Groupon. The other stock I own that huge is Dell. And I love Dell, and I was waiting for my new webcam to come, and I was going to do an entire half an hour on Dell. And I'll do that. The webcam's coming this weekend, so I'll probably do that on Sunday or Monday, and I'll discuss Dell. Dell is a pretty easy story now. They're going to spin out VMware, and you're left with two really cheap stocks. VMware is really cheap, even though I have no idea what they do. That's really not a joke. I couldn't tell you what VMware does. Something to do with Kubernetes or Cone or something. And then the other stock, Dell Core, is extraordinarily cheap on pretty much any metric. And the math won't stay like this once the spinoff happens, because math's math, and the sell side will have to change their valuation metrics, because it's trading at like 3 times free cash flow or something like that. All right, let me take some questions. I had this off the whole time, so I couldn't be distracted. How far up do I have to scroll here for questions? Let's see here. Holy cow, there's 300 people watching this? Okay. I want to apologize. If you were here to watch my dog take a bath, that was a joke. I'm not going to be giving Maisie a bath. I'm going to answer questions, so that's what I'm doing right now. How long will it take for the inspection to complete and 483 questions to be given? So I don't know the answer to that. I think an inspection will take 3 to 5 days. The Bothell one took 7 days, I think. This facility's never been inspected before. They do lots of other things at the facility, so maybe the FDA wants to inspect the whole facility. It could take a while. There's a tight timeline here. Okay, it's December 3rd, and the FDA doesn't work the last week of December. So, and the FDA does not care about the CVR. I cannot overestimate that enough. The FDA does not care about the CVR or the December 31st deadline. That being said, I don't think the FDA decided to inspect this week randomly. I think that they probably had some pressure. I mean, they just missed the PDUFA date. And I don't think it's conspiratorial to say that the goal of the FDA is to get this done this year. Not because of the CVR per se, but because they want to have the annual number of approvals done. And the outgoing FDA commissioner doesn't want to be the one to pass off a breakthrough designation drug that got deferred because they were too scared to inspect during COVID. I mean, the FDA inspector, I left this out. The reason why the CVR went to $1.20 last week, or $1.10 or whatever it went to, is because the FDA inspector tweeted, that all high priority drugs are being reviewed. Now, people pointed out that just came from a speech that he gave back in the early part of November. However, in that speech, the words were, in July, priority reviews have continued. The FDA commissioner did a speech, and the FDA commissioner tweeted, not inspector. Sorry. I assume you knew what I meant that. When he tweeted that out 2 weeks ago, he did not tweet out, in July, priority inspections have resumed. He left the in July part out. So I don't think he was tweeting that in a vacuum. I think he's well aware of the situation and the pressure that's going on with Lysocell. I mean, all it takes is 1 or 2 large donors to, either Congress or to the White House to put pressure on this. I was also told by other people that there is pressure in DC right now. There are large holders trying to exert pressure to get this through. Now, I also was told that they haven't really made any strides from it. This is all third person. So anyway, I don't know how long it will take the inspections, and I definitely don't know whether this will be approved in time. This is tight. It's December 3rd. Now, I do have good news on that front. We found out that there was a drug in Europe that got inspected at the end of July, got Form 483s, and was approved 2.5 weeks later from the end of the inspection. So, assuming Bristol Myers and Lonza want to do this, and assuming that the drug's approvable, there's no reason that this can't get done by Christmas. I would assume it gets approved the week before Christmas, that kind of 7-day window before Christmas. Another thing I find pretty interesting is that Bristol Myers last year did an ESA, God, what's the name of the conference that's this year? ASH, sorry. Bristol Myers did an ASH conference call last year, and they hosted an ASH conference call, and they did it 2 weeks prior. They announced it 2 weeks prior. Well, ASH starts today or tomorrow, And ASH, for those of you that don't know, is the conference where drugs like Lysocell and Idocell get talked about. This year, Bristol Myers is crickets. There's no ASH conference call. Now, that could be because Bristol Myers doesn't have any pivotal data that's reading out, but they do, I'm sure, have dozens of trials that they want to discuss regarding ASH. And they're not doing a conference call. And my thought behind that, again, conspiratorial, was they knew they'd get asked a question about inspections here. And the last thing they want to do is say they have a confirmed inspection. In fact, I'll remind you that they never confirmed the Bothell inspection. They let the Bothell inspection happen, and they never talked about it. And then they confirmed it on the conference call. So I thought it was interesting that they have gone radio silent and they didn't do this ASH conference call. So I lost my train of thought, though, why I was going to tell you that. Oh, what could happen in the next few weeks? I mean, look, they can come out at any point and they could say there's no inspection scheduled. Obviously, I think there's a 95% chance Lysocell is being inspected right now. So the next question is, do they get the Form 483s? Is there something bad enough to make the drug not approvable? And can they get this done by the end of the year? The good news is from a litigation standpoint, I think it's worth a lot more than it was yesterday if they don't get it done by the end of the year. The stock will still go down a lot if December 31st comes, even the last week comes, and it's not approved. But I think you have a nice, a nice safety there from a litigation standpoint. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate your insight. What do you think the odds are of CVR paying out the full $9? I would say the odds of Lysocell being approved by the end of the year is 70%. I would say 70%. And I would say there's another 20% chance it gets approved in the month of January. And a 10% chance it gets CRL'd. So take those odds. And then I would say there is an 85% chance Idocell gets approved by end of March. 85%. A 5% chance it gets deferred, and a 10% chance, a 5% chance there's a major amendment, and a 10% chance CRL. I put virtually a 0% chance of a major amendment, but 5%. Let's do 5%. I'd say 5% chance deferred, 5% chance of major amendment. I don't think it can get deferred anymore. I don't think that's a possibility because the investigators are going to be vaccinated, and they're inspecting Lysocell right now. So it just seems really unlikely. So if you put those odds together, 85% times, let's call Lysocell 65%, not 70%, let's do 65%. 85 times 65 is what, about 50%? So, the fair value of the CVR to me right now should be like 450 and it's trading at 240, but this CVR has always done this. It always trades super below what it should trade at. So what happens if it gets approved? If it gets approved, I still think the CVR goes to close to 450, maybe even $5. And I think that because I think you have a really good read through into Idocell. I think it's a false read through to say, well, Lysocell missed the PDUFA, so clearly the FDA can miss PDUFAs. So Idocell is going to miss its PDUFA. I think it's the wrong read through. The correct read through is COVID vaccinations are here. They're definitely going to get vaccinated. The FDA inspectors, they are as frontline gets. And they'll definitely be vaccinated by the end of January. And they'll have 7 full weeks to inspect the facilities, or 8 full weeks to inspect the facilities. And they don't need more than that. So, yeah. Look, it seems ridiculous being optimistic on this thing, right? I mean, it's blown up so many times. And every time we don't think there could be another turn, there's another turn. So if I'm at 65%, there's a 1 in 3 chance this is not approved by the end of the year, right? It's still a real risk. Okay. And I did sell some of the stock that I bought, the last week today. I do own more stock than I did last week, and it's still a 30% position. So I clearly am taking an enormous amount of risk, even at 240. But look, I think it goes to 450. 240 to 450 is a big move. And here's my rationale for 450, okay? Anything below 450, and you have 100% return on Idocell being approved. Idocell on its own, if you look at historical drugs of its kind, has a 90% chance of being approved. Whether you look at CAR-Ts, if liso-cel gets approved, by the way, it'll be the 4th CAR-T approved in the first cycle, 4 out of 4. Okay? If you look at breakthrough designation drugs, it's 90% drugs are approved. So this is an unmet need. So the FDA has a reason to try to work with Bristol Myers to get this drug approved. It's for a last resource for a very sick kind of cancer. So I don't see a situation where the market's going to offer you 100% return for something that in a non-COVID world would not offer you 100% return. And by the way, that's if it goes to 450, it's 100% return to 9. So I have a hard time seeing it less than 450, given the way this is all played out, even though liso-cel missed its PDUFA date. So that's where I am with that. Oh, in case you don't know, I assume you all know this. Sheep, so he tweeted this before this video started. He tweeted about this news today. I should have mentioned that. He tweeted, okay, I'm going to spare you the details, but just to let everyone be on the same page, it looks like Lonza Houston is getting inspected today. I'm 95% on that. Juno QA employees from Bothell have been there for 2 days already. Today, FDA joined the rendezvous. I should have mentioned that. So that's where this is all coming from. He came out with that, and I am just kind of reporting the details behind it. Do you think we will see an announcement from the FDA or BMY by end of day today? Absolutely not. 100% no. Bristol Myers has said they will not update on inspections. I don't know why they would update on inspections. Imagine if you're Bristol Myers, you're going to put a press release out that says, yes, it's true, there's an inspection happening, and then they fail the inspection and the drug gets a CRL. Hold on one second. You won't hear from Bristol Myers. I guess if it's not true, if it's totally not true, then maybe they would come out with a way to alert the market that it's false. But you're not going to get. I don't think you're going to get a confirmation that it's true. Pretty clear. BML analyst got tipped, probably by BMY. Oh, this is interesting. Can't put report out he did without some intel. He needs a win from BMY for consistently pushing shares. So this is interesting. So the Bank of America analyst, after they missed the PDUFA date, put out a note saying he was 60 to 70% probability of liso-cel approved by the end of the year, which was, it's bonkers to have those odds after you just missed the PDUFA date. My friend asked him at that point, it was in the morning of, if he had talked to Bristol Myers when he got to get those odds. And he responded he did not. So I discounted it. And I thought, if he hadn't talked to Bristol Myers, how's he pulling the 60 to 70% probability, from? I still don't know why he had those odds. Sure looks good now, though. Does the FDA need to put out an updated PDUFA date for liso-cel? It's a great question. No. You can only extend a PDUFA date once. Every drug can only have one major amendment. After that, you can't do it again. It's just how the rules work with these PDUFAs, because the companies pay for these reviews. It's privately funded by the companies. So when they missed this PDUFA date in November, they were never going to put out a new PDUFA date. They could have told Bristol Myers, we hope to get this done by December 31st or by February 1st or whatever. And who knows if they did. But Bristol Myers did not communicate that to us. And they probably didn't tell Bristol Myers an exact date. In fact, I think in the Bristol Myers press release, they said FDA has not communicated a new date. And I don't think FDA would put that in paper. Why is your nose 3D? That's not very nice. BCMA CAR-T first in class. What week, if approved, has greatest odds? What week, if approved, has greatest odds? I don't know what that means, but it's not going to be approved this week, and it's not going to be approved next week, right? Because they have to finish the inspection, and if they get any Form 483, which they're likely to get, they have to respond to it. So this is a weird situation to where this CVR probably won't trade off unless a negative confirmation comes out from Bristol Myers. It probably won't trade off until the last week of the year. and even then they could still prove it you could approve it between Christmas and Hanukkah. Between Christmas and the end of the year. My friend says my nose just has a shine on it that makes it look 3D. I don't think it is an insult. Okay. As a young person who can take the loss, I almost want to make this 50%. You have to consult your financial consultant and your rabbi and your priest to decide how big to make the CVR. I would like to remind you that this has gone down to 65 cents at one point, and it absolutely positively is not a shoo-in for working. The things that can go wrong definitely can go wrong. I'm not just saying this as a hedge. They definitely can still get CRL'd, and they definitely can miss December 31st. Can you give me more color, quantitative input about why you think litigation value has increased? Yes. So if the FDA hadn't inspected this month, then Bristol Myers can say, look, there's no force majeure clause, and we did all we could. We told FDA to inspect. They didn't want to inspect, and sorry. But guess what? The FDA is inspecting right now. So the litigation value would be, how come you didn't turn around the Form 483s in a timely manner to let the FDA approve this on time? And I don't think Bristol Myers wants to go down that path. So it wouldn't even shock me if this does get approved January 5th or January 10th, that Bristol Myers tries to cut a deal with CVR holders somehow and skip the litigation, whether that's tendering and swapping for a new CVR at a discount or whatever. But they do not want disclosure or discovery, in all of this. Thanks so much for the videos. You're welcome. Another good question. Does Lonza respond to the 483s, or is that BMY's responsibility? I'm pretty sure it's Lonza, and Lonza definitely doesn't have any incentive to drag their feet. So, that's definitely one of the questions here, right? Bristol Myers is definitely not going to tell Lonza, please take the 15 business days, because again, that's all discoverable and fraud. So, usually companies do not take the full 15 business days. I was told they usually take about 10 days because they want to get it in a little early. Confirmation about what? It would be confirmation that this is an inspection, that an inspection is happening right now. You're more likely to get bad news in the next week than good news. The bad news would be that Bristol Myers decides to put a press release out and saying, we know there's been some chatter, but unfortunately the FDA is not inspecting the Lonza facility for lysocell right now. You're not going to get a positive press release that says, or an 8K that says they're inspecting. So if anything, the next few days, you're dodging a bullet on the negative side. You're not playing for a positive. Now, the stock's 235, and I think it's worth 450 if it gets approved. So, you're being compensated for the risk. Anything else? It seems only helps litigation if they fail inspection. If FDA just sits on the inspection, gets delayed with no communication, we're no better than we are before. Yes, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they get Form 483s and they don't turn them around fast enough. So let's say that this inspection ends December 10th. If on December 10th, they get the Form 483s and they wait 15 business days, which gets you to the last week of December to respond, the FDA can still approve in the next 48 hours. But they're more likely to approve a week or 2 weeks later. So that's what I mean by litigation. If they fail the inspection, it's kind of hard for them to get in trouble for Lonza facility. It would be Lonza's fault. Are you able to accept new followers on Twitter? For the most part, I don't accept new follows at all. Yeah, the only real way I let new people in is if you know someone I know and you have a real Twitter account and your name's on there and stuff. It's just something I've done all for years, unfortunately. The world's a cesspool. I mean, you should see some of the crap I got on this stock just from coming out here and doing this. The conspiracy theories and people, doing victory laps after it went to 60 cents. And it's so easy for people to throw shade when they don't put themselves out there and always assume you have an alternative motive when I've anyone that knows me from Twitter, I've been tweeting my trades in real time for 7 years, never front running or, having an agenda. My read of CVR agreement is that unanimous consent is needed from CVR holders to make changes that adversely impact them. Cutting a deal to reduce payout to $6. Thoughts? They wouldn't have to. They wouldn't make changes. So what you would do is you would do something like a tender offer for the CVR and say it's contingent on 90% of CVR holders tendering, right? For a new CVR with new terms. So if Bristol Myers did that, then let's say 93% tender, the other 7% that are left over is a very small amount of value to Bristol Myers. And they probably wouldn't even be able to afford lawyers to go through the whole litigation process. So it would just be a nuisance for those 7% that are left. Does that make any sense? So no, they would not unilaterally change the. And this, I don't think this is likely to happen. Okay. I'm just saying these are possibilities. These are possibilities that could happen if this gets approved, the first half of January or the month of January. I would put it at low odds that Bristol Myers changes the rules. Isn't BMY speaking at ASH on 12/5? I don't see that anywhere. Bristol Myers conference, Bristol Myers website, as of right now, they might be presenting data and studies at ASH, but there's no investor relations public conference call with Bristol Myers employees for investors. So if they're at ASH and they're talking about some phase 1, lysocell trial, they're not going to be asked questions or talk about inspections about this or anything about this. So yes, they're at ASH, I'm sure, but it's very different than them doing a conference call. My computer's going to die in like 3 minutes. So when my computer dies, this is over. Let's assume they finish inspections tomorrow. Then 10 days is December 14th for the response. Then how many days for FDA to respond? The FDA can approve it in a week. The FDA approved another drug in July. BMY is definitely presenting at ASH, but correct, no scheduled conference call, which is what they always typically do. And why aren't they doing it? I mean, they scheduled a conference call 2 weeks in advance last time. So I just don't think they want to answer this question. If you're them, do you want to answer the question? Is there any scheduled inspections? It's awkward. They'd rather just not talk about it. And yes, it's 15 business days, not 15 calendar days, which means this is tight. If they wanted to wait 15 business days from the end of this inspection, they could get past December 31st. Absolutely. Yeah. But I believe that FDA is inspecting now for a reason. Why did the FDA decide to send in inspectors now? Why didn't they just wait for the vaccine next month? They put in these guys at risk. So I think the FDA is not going to drag their feet. And I don't think Bristol Myers is going to drag their feet, especially with FDA employees at risk. It's a bad look for Bristol Myers too, and Lonza, not turning around the Form 483s fast so that they can get this approved quickly and get it to patients. I'll remind you that this drug is a safer alternative than the more efficacious drug that's currently on the market. And it can be administered more often than not in an outpatient setting. So this would keep people out of hospitals in the middle of a COVID pandemic, right? There's actually a reason for this to get done now. It can help people, What are you buying on Groupon after approval? That's funny. Glad to hear you still think we get second approval by year end of year. No, I don't think we get IDSL approved by the end of the year. So our bogey date then is tomorrow plus 10 plus 7. No. We have to start counting after the FDA leaves. So if the FDA all week next week to inspect, you start December 10th and you add 15 business days. But they don't have to take 15 business days. They could take 5 business days and turn it around December 15th and then get approved December 22nd or 20th. They could also, have it submitted December 21st and the FDA approves it December 31st. The FDA does work the last week between Christmas and New Year, right? It's not, they don't have to not work that week. They could definitely, turn this around. I assume everything else is done. I assume that the labeling's all done. I assume everything else about this process has been approved. Okay, so you just have to have the Form 483s check out. But it's tight. It's very tight. There is real risk. It's very tight. No, I did not mean 65% approval of the second drug by end of the year. 65% chance of Lysocell approved by the end of the year. 85% of Idacel approved by the end of March. Hey, Matt, what percentage of inspections get 483s? We were told it's at least an 80% chance you get a Form 483. Maybe even higher. It's very likely to get a Form 483, unfortunately, because that's just the way it works. So it's hard to bank on they're not going to get a Form 483, unfortunately. It's very likely. This is going to die in like 1 minute. So I want to thank everybody. I'm sure I'll do another one of these this week or next week if anything happens. Good luck trading. Good luck investing. Remember, still very, very risky. And even talking it out with you now, I realize how more risky it is than I even thought before this YouTube video, because it's such a tight timeline and it very much can miss the end of the year. So, take it easy, and I'll speak to you soon.